The Silly Goose Gang Podcast.
At the start. So we're back with Silly Goose Gang, episode 67, and we're delighted to be joined today by Jeff Bosley, who is an actor, and not an ex, but a former Green Beret and a former firefighter. So, Jeff, thank you very much for joining us today.
Cheers, gentlemen. Thanks for having me.
It's my face hurts from laughing before we started recording.
Pre-show, we're already great. This is awesome.
Pre-show was excellent. The main show will be sketchy.
Yeah, this is gonna be shit.
Pre-show was really good. So
the stuff before this was gold.
Yeah, man. It's yeah, man. Also, I speak to you. We keep saying this every time we speak to a guest. It's like you've lived such an eventful and cool life. But again, it's true. We keep pushing this boundary with guests, but yeah, it's such a interesting life.
Yeah, I always say it's kind of like if anybody that's seen Forrest Gump, like if you watched Forrest Gump's real life, if that was like a real life and you saw the whole thing, you'd be like, it wouldn't be that good. But if you can just show the highlights, it looks cool as shit. So that's all I try to force feed are the highlights of my life. And then it looks really fucking cool. And most of the time, like I'll tell people what I've done, and a handful of your guests, we know each other, we've interacted, and I guarantee they probably have the same thing where people think they're lying kind of about their resume or what they've done. Cause it sounds kind of fantastical. Like I know, like even like the whole former Green Beret and the former firefighter, that's like, take it down a notch, bro. You're not trying to pick up every girl in the bar, but it's just like, these are facts. And yeah, they're very, they don't pay off. Don't that's just to stop that in the tracks. It doesn't help at all.
In fairness, though, based on the picture I just put on Instagram, you don't need help with the lines, Mr. Bosley. You are a jacked, handsome son of a bitch.
You keep using those amazing photo shoots where I'm like dieted for 3 months for one photo. Yeah, like we'll just use that as a catfishing.
That's all you need. We live in the internet world, right? That's all you need is one good picture.
Well, now you get the stupid like filters, but now they're so good. They're almost like artificial intelligence. Where now I was watching a girl, she had a filter on and it was just a conversational one. It wasn't like people putting on the stupid bunny ears and crap. It was fixing eyes and blemishes and all these things. It was like Photoshop that they do in movies, but for stupid Instagram stories. Now I can't trust anything now. You know, I don't even have a beard today. This is all filter.
I don't even understand why you would do that, thinking that was the way to live your life. Like, why would you? Because at some point, somebody's going to wake up next year in the morning and go, "Ah!"
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't get like I didn't get again. I'm old and crusty. We're probably all not like in our 20s. No. But like I didn't get the bunny ear stuff. Like I kind of saw the humor in it for 5 seconds. But it was obvious. It's not like I looked at a woman. I was like, I wonder if she really has bunny ears. But now,
yeah,
it's like those eyelashes aren't real. Are they real? Are your eyes even that? You know, and it's what is the point? Like I don't know. Probably deep. This is deep and psychological. Sorry.
This gets no, it's true. Like I don't. All you know. Actually, it was what my cousin was over at work today. So I run a couple of businesses and my cousin was over and he's got so much confidence in things that he can't do, that he thinks that he can just do. And he literally said, like, well, like my cousin was doing something, another cousin works with us, but he's, 43. And he just went, well, if he can do it, I can do it. He spent his entire life doing this thing. You can't do it. But it's like they live in this crazy world where they just go, oh, I can do that.
Yeah. False confidence is brilliant, but then there's a tipping point where you're a moron. Like where you're going to end up.
Genuinely, like, the other day he thought, he was talking about trying to beat me up, and it was like I've been, 15 years or whatever, like doing boxing and then jiu-jitsu, and you think, I don't think you understand how little chance you have of actually beating. Like it's crazy. No. It's this crazy world that
that was always our running joke, and any McNamara and Jack will probably attest to this. The whole if you don't know what you're doing, put on cool sunglasses and act like you do. And that's the world we live in, and it's just nod your head and look cool until somebody like you actually calls you out on it and buries them in the ground when they're like, "Wow, I really can't fight. My bad."
I think it was do you ever watch the show Impractical Jokers?
I know it. Yeah.
There's so many times in that where they're playing jokes and they have just an official kind of lanyard with something on it saying they're official.
Yeah.
And they just talk obvious bullshit to people, and people go, really has that, so it must be.
Yeah.
I've said this a handful of times where I want to, especially be in the whole like what was the show Ashton Kutcher did where he pranked people.
Punked.
Yeah, Punked.
Yeah.
Like I want to do the same thing, pull up in a panel van with two guys in a like jumpsuits with a lanyard and a clipboard and go into McDonald's or Burger King like the 7 a.m. shift where there's no managers yet. And because now those fast food restaurants have some amazing flat screen TVs in the eating room, and just walk in with your billboard and go, "Hey, I'm from corporate. We got to swap one of these out." And that kid will be like, "Okay." And you could probably just take 5 flat screens, throw them in the back of your van, never to be seen again. And we live in a world where nobody wants to, they just bury in the phone and don't mind their own business.
That's
and the minute you throw in overalls, you become instantly invisible to 95% of the human population.
And if anybody's watching enough horror movies, those are the ones you don't trust. They're always in overalls. Like, what's wrong with us?
That was actually a part of Phoenix Nights. I don't know if you wouldn't have watched it in America, Jeff, but Ali might have seen it. What literally happened was some people turned up to it was like what we would call like a social club. It's like a working man's club where it was like, a pound a pint and just shit, but good, like really shit, but really good. And it was just guys turned up and had overalls on and just took a TV away. And nobody questioned them because, well, they had overalls on. So why would you they had overalls? And that was the question. So when the boss came back in, that was why it was funny. And he's like, what the fuck? And they went, yeah, but they had overalls on. But that was the whole thing. And it was and it's exactly what you've just said. Like,
shit. I thought I was clever.
You know what I mean? It just turned up. So yeah, that's
well, that was a joke in the military. Is like there was these everybody had, for some reason, everybody shopped at the same store for like these green notebooks. And if somebody comes talking to you, you just would open it up and act, you're like, just a minute. And they're like, oh, he's looking in his notebook. It's got to be important. I'll just keep on walking. It's the psychology of us humans it's so easy to crack sometimes, or at least dazzle us with bullshit. Basically,
we've had and actually we spoke about him before, but yeah, Robin Dreek, who was FBI's former head of behavioral analysis, was saying this, and his job, he was literally saying, like, people think that they're all different, and even when they think everybody's being really different, you're still doing the same patterns. Yeah. You're still following the same patterns. Yeah. Like even when you think you're being wildly different, you're still doing the same shit.
Yeah, we're cattle. I mean, and this isn't a segue into Hollywood, but like one of the things I learned as I was older is you go into your auditions and you do your own unique thing. And you sure as shit did the same thing the other 800 dudes before you did. And you're not that clever. You're not that unique. And it wasn't until I was auditioning people for one of my films, and I was like, wow, I bet every one of those people thought they just turned in some new Leonardo DiCaprio bullshit. And every one of them were like clones of each other. We're not that clever. We're just not.
Yeah, I suppose as well, it's that it must be a bit of a peer pressure thing, though, as you say. If Leo is the popular actor, everyone does the Leo. If the Rock's the bit, everyone comes in with the shaved head and the tattoos. If everyone is looking for the next, in the 80s, everyone was looking for the next De Niro and Pacino, so they were going down the method route, and everyone was coming in it's like that. Dustin Hoffman was famously method, and when he was in, I believe it was Marathon Man with Sir John Gielgud, the great British actor. And there was a scene where Hoffman gets tortured, so Hoffman stayed awake for 3 days.
Yes.
So that when he was on camera, he would look really, really washed out, worn out. And so John Gielgud turned around and said, "My dear boy, why don't you just try acting?"
Yes. It's one of my favorite stories. They tell us that in like every theater school I've been to. They tell that, and it's I mean,
it was me thinking I was being unique again.
Yeah, I always joke, like, I don't have kids, but my family's had kids. I've been raised, like some of my closest friends, I help watch their kids. If a kid can sincerely believe they are G.I. Joe or whatever to their fullest extent of their being, keep this shit simple, bro. We're playing pretend. We're not curing cancer. I mean, I'm not saying I'm, this epic, amazing thing, but yeah, just my professor of mine at university, he told me that same story, but then he Americanized it every time I got way too fancy for my britches. And he goes, Jeff, just fucking act. I was like, oh, sorry. You know, like that was his phrase through my whole college career was Jeff, just fucking act. Like, oh, my bad.
This is something that I've said to I probably said it to Ali at jiu-jitsu, like when we're doing something and they're not getting something right, and I jokingly just go, have you ever tried just being better? Like just be better at jiu-jitsu. Fucking hell.
Do what you're doing, but do it better.
Just be a better actor. What the fuck? How hard can that be? You know what I mean?
We just solved all the world's problems, right?
All the world's better, man.
Just be better.
Is this just with what you're saying there? Is this like why people fall into these crazy film roles from time to time? Like somebody comes from nowhere and they get like a cool role because they turn up at an audition and they were maybe not really all that serious and they were kind of nervous and and that's how they end up getting a cool role because they're not trying to be.
Yeah, well, I think, and that's the great debate question that I've yet to master is like, there's a TV show. Do you guys watch Parks and Rec with like Ron Swanson or Chris Pratt? That's where he got his start. Yep. Those kind of roles, for example, that made like those guys famous or known, they were just being themselves. Like if you watch Chris Pratt interviewed, or if you watch the actor that plays Ron Swanson, Nick Offerman, that's them. That's just them being themselves. And they're like, hey, this works for a character in our show. You know, so like it's hard because they'll put like they're called the breakdowns, but they're essentially classifieds for actors. Like they're like, hey, we're looking for a 6'5" guy, white, black, whatever. And then you just show up and try to do your own thing without doing the same thing everybody else has done. But it's those people that don't overthink it, like the Ron Swanson guy or Chris Pratt. They just showed up and were probably just themselves. Yeah. But the three of us are unique being ourselves more than we are if the three of us were going to the same audition and tried to be that fictional thing. Yeah. So if Ali just was Ali, Chris is just Chris, and I was just Jeff, that's probably going to be more unique and diverse than if we got all up in our head and we're like, well, what would this character do? You know, and get all artsy fartsy and cancer curing about it, you know? And I think I can't remember who said it originally, but it's like, it's a little artsy fartsy, but there's a phrase of living. It says, living realistically in imagined circumstances. Yeah. So yeah, I haven't been, I play a Navy SEAL all the time, so that's a bad example. Like, I haven't been a hitman, but what would Jeff be like as a hitman? I don't need to go like, what's this character? You know, and those are the ones I think as I'm getting older and more like jaded and experienced, those are the people that stand out, or they're just essentially being themselves, you know. But then you have like you said, The Rock, larger than life people that just stand out no matter what they're doing. We're not going to put The Rock up against De Niro anytime soon as far as like skills. But the ones that stand out just it's a lot of that right place, right time, and they just happen to stand out being themselves. And most of the time, like even Heath Ledger, for all we know, his high school friends were all like, oh, that's just Heath being Heath. Whereas all of us that saw him in The Dark Knight were like, oh my God, that's epic, you know, and maybe that was just him being him. And all his high school buddies were like, yeah, Heath did that growing up all the time. Yeah,
he seems like one of those guys that probably would have that was like his perfect role. He just seems so comfortable.
Yeah, those roles that just nail it. And I think those are the ones, if you get all artsy fartsy, or those are like where everything lines up right. You know, I mean, I'll joke, but I can play a Navy SEAL or Green Beret in my sleep, you know, but then like, that timing came out for Heath on that. And it was just right place, right time, right character, right actor, and the whole 9 yards. But
I mean, like, it's, I wonder if it gets, you know, is it annoying when it's like, you know, just because you mentioned like a serial killer or a hitman or whatever, like they would all be cast the same way, but you know, sometimes you see things, you know, in the news or whatever it is, and there's a guy being caught and he's a serial killer or a hitman or something, and they look like that guy. Like, what the fuck? He just looks like a normal person, but in a film, they all look.
Yeah, well, that's kind of how I feel about some roles. You know, I love movies and TV as a nerd. Like as a guy that I go to movies to watch shit blow up, and I just like seeing stuff. But then if I'm the guy that also auditioned for the role, I just brain farted the role, but there's a guy who just got a role they're making a video game out of. I'm glad I can't remember who it is. It'll make me sound like I'm bad mouthing him. But the actor is famous, which makes it good for producers because it'll make money for the show because they grabbed a famous guy. But he doesn't. It's what you said. It's like that guy is this character. Like he's a known character from I'm just brain farting. He's a big Texan character. Like the character in the video game is like the epitome of dumb American Texan. And this actor is like, granted, it's called acting, but you don't put them together, like I'm kind of being a hypocrite, but it doesn't make, it's like, is The Rock going to play the president in a serious movie ever? No, like
it might be the president. That's what's funny.
Yeah, that's exactly true. Shit. That's true. It could actually be the other way around. That actually might be reality.
Like if sorry, I don't want to get political, but if there was a movie and Joe Biden was the president and he was mumbling and stuttering on stage, you go, there's no fucking way.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's days where, and again, I'm not political either, but like I guarantee you, if we just could rewind, film what's going on in the world wherever at any time, and just go back 10 years and watch it, you'd be like, that was a Saturday Night Live skit, right? You're like, no, that's reality. That's the real thing.
Yeah,
100%. Yeah. You can't again, not getting too political, but you can't really imagine Biden doing the rah-rah speech like Bill Pullman on Independence Day.
Thank you.
When he like rallies the world, it's like here we go. This will be Independence Day.
We gotta go get the
everybody
thing.
Everybody will be around the humpies going, what did you say?
So, who are we going for?
Are we
and they'll bring in and everyone remembers, don't forget the Morse code, and we've got to get them and the planes, and we'll be ready. And Jericho Biden.
The world is a mess. What a mess.
All the fighter pilots are saying, why is Joe talking about his hairy legs? What the fuck? Somebody get Joe. What the fuck?
And then you have Randy Quaid, who in real world is insane.
And
he played the insane pilot.
I think Ali, did we message, or did you message Randy Quaid? I think he was one of the guys went, that would either be the best thing ever, or just fucking put it in the bin and don't put it out, because
last I heard, he was like outrunning a warrant or something. Like he was going to somewhere where he couldn't get extradited or some shit. But he was also, I just heard this on a podcast I listened to the other day, he also submitted to run for governor of some state in the US, which means he would have to come back. He'd have to extradite himself to come back and run for governor. So
now, as a man who's been in Hollywood, do you think that's stuff from Hollywood that made him go crazy, or was he always crazy?
This is a new topic in my brain. I like the whole which comes first, the chicken or the egg thing. I genuinely think, and I'm basically damning myself by saying this, you can't be somehow under the umbrella of Hollywood or entertainment and not slowly get fucked up, no matter who. We obviously can go extreme and be horrible in some of the most heinous things we think we hear about conspiracies, but disregarding that stuff. But I don't think you can be in that world, no matter even if you're Hugh Jackman or the unknown Jeff Bosley. It's such a weird industry that it slowly has to chip away at you. Like, look at Michael Jackson as a kid. He was probably normal. Yeah, he was a famous musician, but he was probably normal. But because he was normal under this weird isolated bubble of entertainment, he never had a chance to like grow and mature and learn social cues. And then so times that by 20 years, next thing you know, he's hanging his baby off a balcony, and his brain couldn't compute that normalcy. And then you take any famous actor who, as they get bigger and bigger and famous and more famous, they have 1,000 assistants and all that. And I argue the psyche of whatever they don't understand anymore, no matter how much they get where the poor guy comes from. They have 20 years of people handing them food, handing them their bills, paying their bills, and doing that. The brain kind of adapts to that, and they're off, and I think, and my prayer is that I came out here older and I've done some shit that'll keep me a little bit more normal and grounded. And people like you, when you gave me shit about like where you're like, oh, you LA types, I want people to do that shit. I have a tribe of people that will hopefully kick me in the nuts if I become insane, and everybody I've met, some of the biggest names, like they'll people be like, oh, he seems normal. He is, but he's under the umbrella still, so he's normal
Yeah.
considering that. I think once you get here, automatically you're going to be fucked in the head.
Yeah, I suppose eventually it becomes almost the what's the word I'm looking for? The qualifier of normal brackets for Hollywood.
Yeah, exactly.
Is it a little bit like that rather than
the
normal?
barometer, the litmus test for the not in Hollywood and the litmus test for in Hollywood are going to be different. Like a -3 in the normal world is probably a normal in Hollywood.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, when you think about it, if you're like you're saying, you have an assistant who does things like, I mean, you can't imagine Tom Cruise knowing what to do with mail. Like,
yeah,
Tom, you have to apply for a new driving license, so you have to do.
Yeah, he hasn't probably. Yeah, I heard a story, and I'm probably bastardizing. I'm not making fun of the guy. I would kill for his career, all respect. But I heard a story where he came to a Super Bowl party. Somebody invited him to a party, and he showed up, and he had like a pristine, brand new, like American football, football, like right out of the box. He's like trying to throw it awkwardly, like, "Hey, bros, you want to toss the football around?" Like he just was like, "This is what they're supposed to do. I don't know how to do it though." Like, he probably, his heart was probably in the right place, but I don't think they don't, your brain, and you spend half the time begging for work, playing pretend, people telling you you're shit and you're not, I mean, it's depending on how if you come in here already mentally fragile, you're doomed. You're absolutely doomed, So I think especially that's why all the young stars or all the kid stars are a wreck, because they didn't grow up normal, and so I'm glad I came here old and slightly already into Alzheimer's. I'm already leaning that way already. So I might be saved.
I suppose it must be similar. We talked about it on the podcast, Chris, where we've said about like our royal family. They can't have any concept of anything.
No.
Yeah.
Because they've literally grown up. Like, and again, for all Harry seemed relatively normal. He served in the British Army, went out to Afghanistan.
Yeah.
And obviously he's now living out in LA. And you go, but it just you can't have the normal one, because he's never had to do anything, because he's had servants literally from the moment he was born.
Yeah. Well, Joe Rogan talked about how, now where he is, he's now, a king. But he goes, I was raised normal or whatever. I came out to Hollywood and he was doing the stand-up comedy, scraping by for every dollar. But now his kids, who are quite young, I think, they're now being raised in a kingdom. He goes, and he said in one of his podcasts, he basically goes, my kids are already going to be fucked up. They don't have a normal life now already, and it's a very, that's always something I've been pondering a lot. Like, that's why I want to not make it like, I want to get inertia and get the fuck out and move to Montana or Wyoming and only come back when I have to, get the hell out,
This is, I mean, they said this on a more extreme level. This is why the Mongols, essentially, their empire fell to pieces, because, Genghis Khan conquered the world. And then each son then got the spoils of war, and every one of them became softer and softer and softer. Point where
exactly.
They couldn't they had no concept of what was going on.
Yeah.
They would just, they had the silver spoon. And
well, back in our history, our presidents were generals in the military. I mean, like, let's go all the way back to Washington. I mean, that guy was on boat, opening, slaying people, before he was the president, and now going back to our Independence Day story, like, that's terrifying to me.
No. Three score. Is it still 3 score? I don't know. How many years ago was it?
In a month?
Do you follow Kyle Dunnigan?
I know the name. I think. Who is he?
He's a comedian who does face swaps on Instagram.
Okay, no, I'm thinking of somebody else. Yeah.
Oh my god,
he does. That's where Jericho Biden comes from. We thought his Trump was good. His Joe Biden. Me and Chris will just send it to each other, and the pair of us will just be in tears with his Joe Biden impression.
I will look that up when we're done. That sounds awesome.
It's hilarious. It's so fun. Like some things are funny. That's properly like I have to watch this again. It is fucking. Oh my god! And it's just,
it makes you, as I say in Scottish, it makes you end up river dance and makes you do dolphin noises. Like your legs are just going.
That's when you know it's good.
Yeah.
I always use my barometer for humor is 9 times out of 10 every guy's probably doing their morning crap on the phone, spending 45 minutes on the toilet catching up on social media. But if you can laugh while you're doing that and not care about how hard you're laughing while you're going to the number 2, that to me, that means it's legitimately funny. You know, like I won't tell a girl this, but I'm sitting on the toilet laughing so hard right now. And that to me, that's a huge compliment.
That's one of the funniest things is every day I have to, doing the morning number 2. And every day I go, I've been sitting here for 20 minutes longer than I had to because I'm just looking at shit on Instagram. like I'm
how inefficient, how inefficient are we?
Do you know what I mean?
If your legs are going dead and you're wondering why you don't have enough time in the day, we could probably cut back.
How many times, genuine question now, gentlemen.
Yeah.
How many times have you stood up off the toilet and went, shit, I can't feel my legs?
Oh yeah. I've lost count. Right hand to God. Yeah, right hand to God. Where I'm like, I'm like Lieutenant Dan. I'm like, I ain't got no legs. So I found the best way is to I go in my anatomy and physiology knowledge. I'm like, well, there's those nerves that run there. So if I put some weight over here, I'll take turns and I'll rotate in the nerves so I can sit here longer and not kill my legs. All about efficiency and science.
100%. As opposed to just standing up.
Yeah, no. I got shit to not do.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. This is the difference between men and women.
Yeah, it's a fascinating thing that if there's a guy on this planet that denies that, they're lying.
Yeah.
Or we're just not sophisticated. I think maybe we're all just cavemen.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not, as me and Ali said before, we're not precious.
No.
We're not precious, this thing.
Well, I don't even have a reason. Like, I know some fathers do it because that's like their only time alone is to be in the bathroom taking a number 2. Their wife won't bother them. Their kids won't bother them. I just have a dog. I really have no excuse for sitting on the toilet for 45 minutes. I'm not hiding from anybody.
Yeah, I mean, I stay alone as well. I don't even have a dog. I live alone, and I'll still find myself in there. And you're going, fuck man, that's an hour. I've been in here for an hour. This is ridiculous. I have a couch and a bed.
I was just gonna say the same thing. Like this couch right here to my left looks so much more comfortable than that porcelain thing that kills my legs and puts my legs to sleep.
Yeah. Yeah, but still do. And you know what? The sad thing is, I'm going to wake up tomorrow morning and do this. The only bad thing is I'm going to be sitting here tomorrow morning with dead legs thinking about Jeff.
I was going to say, yeah, we've accepted each other. Now when it happens, our first thought will be of one of you two.
I wonder what Jeff's doing.
Yeah.
I wonder if Jeff's got dead legs. I wonder if he's rubbing his veins and his nerves right now to make it less weird. I wonder if that's happening now.
I'm so glad we have a time change. So the odds of this happening are small.
Oh man.
You guys will be well into your day.
We did say that this takes weird turns and twists and it doesn't end on what you think.
Yeah.
I always say it's inevitable that when you're talking, like even when I do my podcast, you're inevitably the person you're talking to. Odds are you're going to overlap and tell the same story once or twice. That's just the nature of the beast. I will say on my yet to be filled mother's grave, I have not talked about taking a crap and dead leg ever on a podcast in my entire life. So we popped our cherry on that one.
Oh man, yeah, it's man. Things that it's one of those things where it's quite strange that people can deny these things that they do it, and everybody does it. Like, why do we?
Well, there's a book, isn't there a book that kids read called Everybody Poops?
Oh, I don't know. I didn't. Yeah. Oh, well. I didn't read that one.
Hey, all the parents listening, I swear to God, there's parents that'll probably be going like, yeah. I'm pretty sure there's a book called that for kids.
Yeah. So, anyway, so Hollywood.
Yeah,
talking about shit.
Speaking about shit and dead leg.
Is it really as fake and as it looks, as you would imagine?
It's like, I hate now that I know how the sausage is made that it's like, if you ask me on a more jaded day or if I'm having a bad day, I'll probably would crucify the hell out of it. It is an extremely weird like if you just do like interviews or superficial stuff, like I was one of the few non-acting jobs I've had when I moved out here. I did like it's called low profile bodyguards. So you're not in a suit and an earpiece, but you're kind of like blended in the crowd with the people you're protecting. And I did that with this band, and they were doing a tour for the big music awards that were in Vegas that year. And when they came here, they did like back to back to back, like the Ellen show and this show and this show and this show and this show. And and that was the first time I watched the oddity of, they would sit there, people would come flocking in on them, fix their hair and their makeup and all that shit. Guys, didn't matter. They had to have all their stuff all right. People would run away, and then a new interviewer would come in and ask the questions. And then that interviewer would leave, fix. And then another interviewer would come in and probably ask all the same questions, thinking they were unique. And that was the first time I saw, it's almost like a circus where it's so fake, but it's not necessarily fake don't get me wrong, it's fake in a derogatory way too. But in those kind of circumstances, it's just such a weird thing. If you were to say, I mean, my dad's an ER doctor, he's saving lives. Meanwhile, there's these kids getting makeup put on by 5 people, fixing their bangs, and then getting asked questions. So it runs the risk of being fake, and then it's like a downward spiral where it feeds itself. So if the person is fake or the situation is fake or whatever, it's just going to get worse and worse and worse and worse. And then they're socially inept, and then it's just this, it's a weird downward spiral of fake. It can run fake from a superficial and justifiable way all the way to extremely negative. There are the malicious stories of it is such a ruthless thing, because it's the one business or career or whatever where you have so little say in what you do, and that's where it's hard for me is those 2 careers I was a former version of. I had a say in those. Like, as long as I did my best and passed, I was going to be a Green Beret or a firefighter. Here, that doesn't exist. And so you run the risk of constantly being at the mercy of somebody else deciding if you're worthy. And then if you're young or immature or all those bad factors, that's when you hear the horror stories of maybe a woman meeting a male producer and she'll do anything she can to get the job. And so it's all, the power isn't not in your hands. And then that runs the whole dark side, where people are just constantly kissing the ass of that one person. We've all gone to a job interview and kind of been a little bit more polite just because we want the fucking job. But then that's how it is everywhere here. And then so like I can't go to those mixers and things where you're just basically kissing. The only reason you're interacting with that human is to suck up and go, God, I hope they remember me when they make their movie. I hate that. That's the stuff I hate. It tears at your soul.
I can relate to that on the podcast level. I don't want to be nice to somebody to try and get them to come to the podcast. I don't want to suck up to you. I don't want to go, send messages to you or anybody, trying to be nice, so you'll speak to one of your friends and they might, I just want to be nice. Like, it's going to be real, just not to be a dickhead. Like, I've no interest in, being overly nice to you now, so that you go and speak to, I'm sure you've got some cool friends and prior places. So you go back to them and say, oh, you should totally, I just want you to go back and say, man, I spoke to these 2 guys and it was fucking fun. We're not interested in the fakeness of it. I think if you do something for the right reasons, and you're a decent person, the results will come anyway.
Yeah, well, then that runs the risk of, if you're fake, then you got to maintain that. If it worked for you, and this is just off the cuff, but then you got to maintain that fakeness as that inertia keeps going. And then that genuine thing you buried way at the very first introduction or the very first meeting, that's actually not who you are anymore. So it's that people can have a bad day and be professional. And I think we all are grown ass adults where we can want to murder the world. You could turn it off, be professional. And if they go, hey, that guy was really polite and professional, great. But if I got to fake a nuance, like I think we've all done it to an extent of, like, I always go back to like the military and like what we had psychological operations. I always call it Hollywood psyops. Is like, how can I like just slightly be clever and make this guy remember it, but still stay true to myself, And So I'll do you'll try to do that shit just to kind of, I want to win. I'm still a competitive person. I want something. But at the same time, I can't, this sounds very like Captain America here, but I can't do it at the expense of, like you said, faking who you are. Like that'll eat your soul up, and and that I think is why this business is so, has so many dark sides to it. Is it's one of the few where people spend their days doing what you said, just faking it.
I mean, we had a couple of guests for podcasts, fairly impressive people who wanted a fee. They wanted a podcast fee. And it was one of those things where, we said right from the get-go, absolutely not. Because that to me is prostitution.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Why would you, you could sleep with the best looking girl in the world if you pay her enough money.
No, and that's the weird thing is, and that's, it's the weird thing. I was actually, this sounds so hoity-toity, but the meeting I had right before you guys is I was meeting with a potential hopeful agent. And I was telling her, like, I hate that this is an business. This is an industry of business, like, and if somebody wants to move to Hollywood and dabble and make YouTube videos, great, have at it. But if you want to like actually get in the union and start building your retirement and your pension and put food on your table doing this stuff, you got to still treat it like a business. But with that being said, you also need to realize that part of entertainment is I don't want to call this the free stuff, but this is the shit that people should enjoy. Yeah. Like, like I enjoy acting. My dad enjoys being a doctor, but he needs to still put food on his table. Yeah. But I think there's the ancillary shit. And I don't mean that in a negative way, but the ancillary stuff, the interviews and the podcasts and all that fun shit. Like some of my most favorite shit is going to like the LA Children's Hospital and doing stuff there. And I know for a fact there was a handful of like A and B list celebrities that got paid to go. I'm like, what kind of really?
That's one of the things.
You made so much money, you could not spare an evening to hang out here. Like,
this is one of my fucking pet peeves in life is people that do things for charity publicly. Like, they have to take the picture or the video of them feeding the homeless. I seen this homeless guy and I bought him a McDonald's. Just shut the fuck up and buy him a McDonald's.
Yeah. Did you see that one? I think we crossed paths after this. During the whole riots or whatever in LA, there was an influencer. Like, one of my things I hate the most are the influencer and content. I get that that's their world, but the minute, like, somebody, I even made a meme of it. Somebody called me, said, "Are you an influencer?" And I about lost my shit. I was like, kill me before you categorize me as that. If I do influential stuff, great. But there was this woman. Her boyfriend was recording her helping hang a piece of plywood. Like, she grabbed the drill.
Yes.
I guarantee she didn't know anything about it, but she was putting the drill and trying to act like it. I guarantee she didn't put the bit in the wall at all. Boyfriend took the picture, whatever, and they walked off. But there was a third person recording it from afar, and he caught the whole thing that it was fake. And I posted, luckily with that blue check mark, my shit works its way to the top of the algorithm for some reason, which I love. But I posted something saying, this woman's a piece of shit for what you just said, like faking. I mean, she wasn't even doing it and recording it. She faked it to record it. And then somebody chimed in and they're like, "What are you talking about? She's so sweet. I know her." And so I posted a screenshot of that conversation and with my reply saying, "Cool. Will you tell her she's a piece of shit?" I was like, if you know her, tell her that. And that stuff, like, it's that. Yeah, that shit. Oh yeah, my hair's standing up on my arm. That shit just irritates me. Like, so annoying. I've gone to the red carpet stuff or like not cool, like some low end stuff, and it helps. It looks cool for managers to go, "Oh, Jeff's out and he's on a red carpet wearing a tux." But I guarantee, like, that shit doesn't help the charity. Like, that's the thing, is that doesn't help that stuff. And I get lit up with that. I'm with you. Trust me. I wanted to Spartan kick that lady in the sternum into that plywood.
I've had, and one of the things that I get shit for all the time. So I've done, quite a few marathons and triathlons and some crazy stuff like that. And I've never done anything for charity. And I get really weird about asking people for money. So I will do something. I find it such a weird thing that I don't want to.
A weird transaction.
Like if Ali decided that he was going to do all the promoting and the asking people for money, like, leave me to do thing, and I'll help people. You know, I would rather
that's the sweet spot is have somebody else do it, so you don't look like the schmooze. You know?
But you know, I think just by being a decent human being, if you're in a shop and a little old lady drops her handbag, just pick it up for her.
Yeah.
Nobody needs to know that I've done that.
Yeah.
just do the nice thing, like, And
it's weird because my first instinct when you said that is I 100% agree, but now my ideal hybrid of that would be you help that little old lady pick up her handbag and somebody else happens to record it genuinely, like, oh, that looks cute, let me record that, because my second instinct is that shit needs to be seen.
Yeah, that's
all this world is right now is hideous, negative, bad, horrible shit. Yeah. And so it's like, fuck, you want to
I understand that. Yeah, I understand.
You want to see that happy shit, but the odds of somebody recording it, and then there's just like anything, there's the bad apples that record themselves helping the old lady, and
that's a shit.
We got to find them and punch them in the face.
Yeah. Oh man, I would take great pleasure. That shit annoys me so much. Yeah. Fucking man, I hate those guys. Angry, okay, I want to leave you guys too. I'm going to get the heavy bag. It's a fucking that pisses me off, but I try not to get annoyed too much. I've been annoyed today already, and I don't want to get annoyed twice.
Second half of the podcast is going to be all of us meditating.
Relaxing.
Yeah, definitely. So one of the things that I was going to ask is, when you're talking about all the stuff that goes on in Hollywood, does it affect you more knowing that you've done, being a Green Beret and being a fireman, where this is real shit? That's as real as it gets. Being a fireman and having to run into a house if it's on fire. That's or running, if you're in a firefight on a battlefield. Yeah. That's as real as it ever get. So when you see all this, like the circus you're talking about, where there's band set and get fucking makeup put on, and does that annoy you knowing that this isn't fucking?
I think despite everything I just said, I think I've set myself up to be super screwed because I have now experienced, like you're saying, such a wide spectrum. Whereas, like Michael Jackson as a kid had this, and that was just a weird space for him, but that was where he was. I went from here to here, and it's like ignorance is bliss. Like I now know, like when I hear, my first thing is like if we're on set and somebody goes, oh, my feet are killing me. I got to then process, Jeff, don't murder him. He doesn't know any better. He doesn't know what it's like to literally march until your feet tissue is flux. It's called sloughing off your feet from how long you've been walking. Don't get mad at him, Jeff. Just let it go. So then I run into that because of that. And then, but the flip side of that is I've used this phrase tons. It's my barometer of suck, not in the sexual way, but like my barometer of like, yeah, exactly. Trust me, if that were the case, I would have a lot more roles.
Controversial.
But my barometer of suck is like much greater because now what is difficult is a joke to me because of that stuff. Yeah. But the flip side of that coin is it comes to the bitter, jaded side of like, how dare you complain about this? And then you just like anybody, you find yourself getting soft, or during lockdown we're all working from home. That's kind of nice. And then they ask you to come back into work. You're like, how dare you? What? You're making me actually show up to the office now? Screw you. And so your body gets soft. So I go back and forth between that. I want to punch the kid for complaining about sore feet, but then the other side of like, wow, like this one job to date, the biggest job I had was on this action film in South Korea where we were literally sitting on our ass for 16 hours a day. And I was just counting my blessings from the military, where that's a lot of your life is just sitting on your ass. And I was just like, this is the best. And I would just sleep for 12 hours on a wall because of what I could do, because I could sleep on a rock somewhere, whereas everybody else is like getting antsy. And then the prima donna actors are all like, I'm going to be in my trailer. And I was like, I'm just going to sleep here on the floor. This is the best. So it makes me basically bipolar because of that. That ignorance is bliss would be nicer, but it's been a blessing. Because also I know what misery really is, and pain and suffering, and that's not to say like I've lived I've done some shit, but I'm stuck in traffic. Cry me a river.
One of the things that me and Ali were talking about just recently, actually, it was people who sign up for iron distance triathlons or whatever it is, and then complain that it's hard. It's like, this is voluntary. Like, it's not conscription. This is not Vietnam.
Yeah.
You're like, just don't do it.
That'll be our lessons today. Be better, and if it hurts, stop.
Yeah,
if you don't
stop.
like it, don't do it.
Yeah, don't. It's something that winds me up so bad. It's when people are like, oh my god, I have to do this. It's so hard. But you signed up for it.
Yeah.
It's not
I mean, I'll find myself bitching and moaning about Hollywood shenanigans and bullcrap and not getting work, and I'm like, well, things could be worse. Like, literally could be getting shot at. So
yeah,
I try to keep that in mind, but don't get me wrong, I'm not perfect. But then I will. Like you're saying, my version of watching somebody at triathlon bitching about it, I'll see somebody that's living in a trailer that's bigger than my home in LA, and I'll be like, "You're bitching. You're really making this hard, bro. You're making this hard."
I catch myself, and I have to stop myself, on multiple occasions, and I do the same thing, and I go, "I'm doing exactly what fucking annoys me. I'm doing it,"
exactly.
And you have to stop yourself. But I became that asshole.
Yeah,
I mean, that's a real thing, thing. It's
and then you get like, we're all competitive. I think it's definitely a guy thing without a doubt. But then I get mad at that person because they've done something right or successful, or they've been doing it longer, and they of course have a big ass trailer, whereas I'm sleeping in basically a porta potty, and I'm just like, yeah, I hate him now, and then I get all jaded. I'm like, oh, I hate all rich successful actors now, and it's just like, whoa, Jeff. Take it down a notch. It's okay.
We were talking today actually, because both me and Chris do jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
And there's that whole thing about there's no ego in jiu-jitsu. But we were saying, except for when Chris taps me, except for when Chris catches me, except for when I nearly caught Chris and he got fucking out of it. And then and you're like, get really angry. And obviously there's no ego because it's all zen, and the mat is the water, and I'm the shark, and they're the lion, and territory, and all that bullshit.
Until there's ripped your arm out of the socket. You're like, I didn't tap though. That's all that matters.
yeah. Well, I do have that thing about, because whenever you do jiu-jitsu, everyone's good at one thing. Like Chris is an absolute wizard at leg locks. I'm 6'3" and like about 190 pounds, so I'm kind of lanky and rangy.
Yeah.
So I use triangles. So because of that, I refuse to tap to triangles, because the worst thing that happens is you just go over the Rainbow Bridge for a few seconds, and then you come back to the other side, and you wonder why Chris and everyone else is in your bedroom as you wake up. So, but again, there's no ego. There's no ego.
That was his spectrum of suck.
Yeah, that was my spectrum of suck. Chris makes me go to sleep, and then I wake up sore. But
yeah, I agree.
It must be somewhere you get caught up with. Oh yeah, there's no ego, except for when there is ego.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's. I think, and a lot of times I'll even try, like, I'll even on stupid social media post something, and I'm posting it blatantly for me. Like, I'm like, if somebody gets this something out of this, great. But I'm being a hypocrite whiner right now. I'm going to try to post this because I need it, and yeah, I think. Again, none of us are perfect, but I think if you can at least have that self-reflection, you're like, I'm never going to tap out to this. But when I do, it's like, oh, I'm aware of it. At least you can be aware of it. It's when you're not aware of it, that makes you a turd.
That's what genuinely I always say to I am aware of my own bullshit. I'm aware I'm doing it, and I try not to do it. But I'm.
But it's good when you have people call you out on it too, though. Like, that's
so important.
That's the one thing. I mean, when you're teasing me about the LA thing and being late or discombobulated, I know you were joking, but I'm like, oh fuck, don't let that be a seed, Jeff. Don't start being that guy.
That was one of those ones where I'm like, I'm hoping I've read this room right, because if not, this is going to be a very fucking short podcast. Fuck you. You call me LA, bye, hang up. Okay then. So, this is awkward.
And I think that's where a lot, at least for me in the military, like, I was always older in the military, and I was older as a firefighter, and then I come to LA, and those are like 3 tiers of thick skin existences. Don't get me wrong, I'm a sensitive Sally most of the time, whining about all sorts of stupid shit, but I try to remember, hey, like, I've spent the last half of my life being teased and mocked and made fun of, told your hairline isn't good, and then I get to Hollywood, I'm like, oh, they're not going to be superficial here. It's like, this is the worst place ever. Like being a Green Beret was all hugs compared to how mean these pieces of crap are out here.
and you know what's hilarious, Jeff, is like I said, we spoke to Will Willis for 2 hours 45, 2:40, whatever it was, and he's the nicest guy, and he's like, kind of a big star. He's the first person where like friends of friends had messaged us to say, "Holy shit, you spoke to Will Willis."
Yeah.
And he was really friendly afterwards, like on and off. He gave us great advice about things, and he followed us on Instagram and everything. And we're like, "Fuck, man, that's super cool." The next morning, if Ali remembers this, he had to get up early to shovel snow to get his wife out of his driveway. And I messaged saying, "Yep, but there's no escape in real life." You
and
think
that's
you're cool, but
and I think that's like
snow.
and I think there's some old I'm gonna butcher some old Chinese proverb about that, like, or what's the one, like, we all put our pants on one leg at a time, or whatever all that bullshit is.
Yeah.
But yeah, I want to get to the point where I can hire somebody to shovel the snow.
I mean, I'm available.
Or get to the real point where someone puts your pants on for you.
Thank you.
That's where you get to.
This is great. While somebody's putting my pants on for me, I will have somebody shoveling snow. And then I'll do a podcast talking about, I know what it's like to be poor.
I know what it's like. Yeah. You can't talk to me about the tough life. I live I am the tough life.
That's tough to
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, what was it? Oprah did something a couple weeks ago, and she said something like, she's like, I know what it's like to be oppressed. I'm like, maybe 40, 50 years ago. But
yeah, maybe a grandad dickhead.
You can't keep
anymore.
Yeah, you can't grandfather in something from that long ago. There's an expiration date on that.
That seems to be a weird thing where if you go back 100 years, 200 years, when they were literally oppressed, and now you're going, are you really?
And it's diluting the waters of the definition of that word now. And again, this disclaimer, I mean, I'm a tall white boy from Idaho, so like I don't know what it's like to probably be, any oppression I've had has been probably self-inflicted, but you're right though, like that's the thing in this society is things are so diluted now, it then trivializes the real shit, and
I had this conversation with somebody about it's when they were calling, it's whenever Donald Trump done something, he was a Nazi. And you're going, okay, I don't.
They're now ruining. Yeah, that's a good example.
If you I get it. You don't like him, right? Whether you like him, you hate him. Okay, you don't like him. That's cool. To call him a Nazi, like, have you ever read a history book? Do you understand what Joseph Mengele was doing to people, to children?
Yeah. Yes.
Like, he was a fucking horrible bastard, like a devil of a man. You can't call. This is not.
You're now neutering. Yeah, you're neutering the value of words or causes or whatnot.
Don't mix them up. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, no, it's very true. It's very true.
And it's that kind of one of these things that pisses me off. But I don't even know where I was going with that. This happens quite regularly. But what the fuck am I talking about? Why am I now talking about Joseph Mengele?
Something shiny.
I was talking about having dead legs or having a shit 10 minutes ago. Now I'm talking about Joseph Mengele. Who knows?
Oh, we're talking about like I don't even know, Oprah and oppression, and then something else. But
it's it's like Oprah,
three middle-aged white men, two of which are Scottish, talking about oppression.
It's like, but it's true. It's like, isn't Oprah Winfrey like a billionaire?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's the thing, is at least we're all self-aware enough to know, like, hey, we're three white dudes that don't, luckily in our heritage, fortunately in our lineage, have near as much oppression as she does in her lineage.
Yeah.
But Oprah, present day, she's not oppressed.
like LeBron talking about being oppressed. And you're like, dude, you're on like $100 million a year.
Yeah.
Like, I want to be that oppressed.
Well, and that's it. And I like, most of the time I just see red with that, and I'm with you. And I try to go, okay, I would bet money that even him in like, and I'm making this shit up as I go right now, but even him, if he goes to the team owner who happens to be some old rich white guy, I would bet money that there is a discriminating thought in that person's mind. Like, he's still, I would imagine he's still in this day and age, sadly, bumps up against oppressive things, but he overcomes them 1,000-fold. Yeah. See, that's the difference. Like, he probably comes up against racist managers and team owners and players all the time. Yes. But is it causing an oppression per se? No, he's overcoming it. So good on him for overcoming it. But using that word, it kills it, because it's like oppressed implies stagnation or stoppage or fall backwards, backwards momentum, like
well, what
if
was
I
the
trip
name?
over a speed bump, it didn't oppress me. I made it over it and it wasn't convenient. But if I run into a brick wall, that brick wall has oppressed me. I can't go through it, I'm going to keep that metaphor.
The thing that really annoyed me with all that kind of stuff was there were just I don't even like talking about race because like I'm a white Scottish guy, so I can't really talk about when not that long ago there was video of African people being sold as fucking slaves in Libya, like in 2019, and then we've got these Black Lives Matter protests, and it's like, yeah, but this is not really. Look at this, like they're literally selling people.
Yeah,
it's like now, the whole thing that's kicking off in Palestine and Israel and all this shit. You go, yeah, but listen, I know you're upset about these people who are Muslim, but there's Uyghur Muslims like in literal concentration camps in China, and you're not fucking paying attention to that because it's not the cool thing to like.
And it fascinates.
Fuck?
Like it's the fascinating thing about how we as a species or present day shiny object syndrome or however we are not manipulated by the media, but like it baffles me with this is a random tangent, with the amount of exposure we have to everything on the planet, that there's still an ability to not expose things. We can learn everything about some famous celebrity's sex life or some weird candle Gwyneth Paltrow makes or whatever, but we for the life of us can't get any video footage of a pedophile in LA. Like, really, like I fail to believe that doesn't exist. Or or like you were saying, like I'll be like, oh man, I'm really hungry, I wish I weren't a starving actor. And it's like, whoa, Jeff, there's literally, you've been to Africa and you have seen the definition of starving. Like, chill the fuck out, Jeff. And I don't know. Yeah, again, I wish I knew the right answer because
I don't either. I'm a moron. I don't know the way to fix it. I just get
we're three dudes that fall asleep taking a shit, so like don't hire us for any answers.
No,
I'm not the guy. I'm not the guy. And if I am the guy, something's went horribly wrong. Horribly wrong.
Somebody put in my DMs multiple times that they're like, you should just run for a local government or something. I'm like, I'm self-deprecating as the next guy, but if that's the case, shit. Like, God, like, holy God, like that's, and I'll tell them, like, I'm not being hard on myself. I'm actually very bad at politics. That's why, like, I have my personal opinions, but I don't have an educated stance a lot of the time. So I try to not get into it because I'm like, how am I going to argue with this topic if I don't have research or knowledge? But then they go, well, it's worked out for a lot of other people too. Like,
that's true. That's true. But there's a Scottish comedian called Billy Connolly, and when he talks about politicians, he said the desire to be a politician should ban you from life for ever being a politician. And I just think that is the best line ever. It's absolute gold from Connolly because it's so true. Because if you want, it's like you were saying earlier, Jeff, about that coercive power that they get at the top end of Hollywood with the dark stuff. People seem to gravitate towards certain positions with that certain mindset and use it to exploit people. And I think there's a sub-element of certain career politicians that go into it at 24, 25 years old and are still there at 65 and 70 when any other job they'd have long ago been pensioned out and sent.
They don't represent, and that's one of my political things for sure. Is like they don't represent the everyman anymore.
Yeah. So what were we talking about yesterday, Ali? We were talking about like, so what is the salary of the president of the United States? Is it like $500,000 a year?
I think it's around that. Yeah.
So then, like Obama's are worth like $400 million, and you're going, I have some questions. Like, how long were you in power for? Like, what the fuck did this money come from? What?
Yeah.
Like, can somebody explain that? Like, how the fuck?
Yeah. I want to hire the guy that does the trash collecting. I think, he knows what is, he like the grunt, like it's the grunt of the military, like.
It's just, what it's like we ask all the wrong questions. It's like, it's like with the news and the media and stuff. It's like they just like, why has nobody ever said I'm not just picking on Obama or it's like, Like, how are you worth so much money when you get paid that, $500,000? It's a great wage.
I'm not a math. Yeah, if I mow a lawn for $20 and everybody knows my price is to be $20 a week on lawn, and at the end of the month I have $5,000. I'm not a math genius, but that doesn't add up.
Something's not right here. But nobody asks it. It's it's a weird thing. I don't. Again, I'm not a politician, so this is one of the things that, when something happens in the world, I cannot look at Facebook. It just becomes like, listen, man, I know I'm stupid, but I'm way smarter than a lot of these people I see on Facebook. It's like, listen, I'm not. I understand how ridiculous your argument is. This is.
Remember when we just had MySpace? You just had some dumb shit on there and a song that you thought represented you that everybody made fun of you for having. That's it. That's all it should be.
And half the problem we now have is that everybody's allowed to voice an opinion, and then I get
without consequence.
Yeah, without consequence. Whereas if you're having a conversation like this, you can't say something like unfounded and ridiculous. Yeah, because the guy's looking at you.
There's present tense accountability.
Yeah, of course it is. It's
Well, there's a country song. I'm a country boy. That's like my music back or love. And there's one song that says the lyrics something like, back when you could fight in a parking lot and nobody'd call the cops.
Yeah.
And I'm not a walking ball of violence, but those days are gone. Obviously some shit's gone wrong in our past. Like I always use the example of like, we're now finding out, no big surprise, but tons of our founding fathers and all that stuff, they had slaves, they did all these horrible things. It doesn't discredit like some of the things, and it's hard for the brain to compute. Like I always use the example of the Cosby Show. That show is great. We now found out Bill Cosby is a human piece of shit. Yeah. So does it mean the Cosby Show is now a piece of is bad? So it's like that slippery slope of finding that balance. The
thing is, we can't erase history.
Yeah.
You can't, it's like the Hitler thing. Do you erase Hitler from history because he was a bad person? No, you keep him there and go, okay,
let's not let this happen again.
Don't do this again.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't kill millions of Jewish people. That's bad. Okay. This is why it's bad. This is why we can't do this again.
Try not to forget it.
Yeah. So but I don't understand the need to listen. Obviously, if somebody owned a slave now, you'd be like, what the fuck? You can't. Yeah. You can't do that. Yeah. But it's like.
But it's because we know of And
Like.
Well, I mean, if there's some weird ledge on your door and you stub your toe every day and you remove it, then you move into another place that has the same ledge thing, you're going to stub your toe again. Like. There's books about the fall of kingdoms being cyclical, like Rome, and you mentioned Genghis Khan and all that. It's gonna fall. We're just I want it to be tomorrow so I could get zombie prepared, or let my grandkids deal with it. Like that's all I care.
It's one of you spoke about George Washington, and that was because he got away from us. You know what I mean? Like that was we had the British Empire, and that now we don't. Now we've barely got anything because it's all gone to shit.
It's one of
the British guy I was telling you about that reminds me from a Guy Ritchie movie. Like we were working together on, it was the 4th of July, and I was like, I said to another person, I was like, hey, happy 4th of July. He's like, hey, happy Trader Day. I never thought of that. I was like, on paper, you're right.
One of the funniest fucking things I ever seen online. There's what is the word? There's a word that America use one L and we use two L's, and I can't remember what the word is. And I can't remember what the word is, or it's vice versa. And I can't remember which way it was, but it was somebody screenshotted it. It was on Instagram, Facebook, whatever. And the British guy was saying, why don't you use or why do you not use the same amount of L's? And it was American just said, yeah, because we gave you that L in 1776. And it was just one of those things.
I know the joke. I know which one you're talking about.
Trying. It's just one of those things, but it's so funny.
Yeah, it's brilliant. It sticks. But there was like Eddie. You guys know Eddie Izzard, right? The comedian, now actor. Yeah. Like he talks about the word, the letter H, and British and Americans, how he goes, we call it herb because there's a fucking H. You guys have herbs, you know. I was just like, yeah, it's true, yeah. I gotta give you credit on that,
it's like you. I don't know why, but you have a weird hatred of the letter U.
Oh well, you guys have a big liquid U, like
well, because we have like color has a U in it.
Stupid, yeah.
COLOUR,
The
color.
spelling of it, yeah.
Yeah, well, whereas you have COLOR.
Yeah, my trainer is from the UK, and he does words like recognize. We use a Z. He uses a SE.
Yes, because
this is why we all can't get along.
I know. I was going to say the clue is in the word English, you know, so it comes from us.
I mean, yeah. Shay, well played, sir.
Yeah, it's true. Well, like the
I always say that at auditions, like they'll do like, can you do this accent or whatever? And again, I'm a dumb Idaho white boy. I can do a little bit, and I took tons of it in college, but my brain doesn't work that way. Like some people can just fake it. I have to look at the phonetics of it because I'm a science brain. So I have to look at how it's spelled, and I can slowly get into it. But I'm like, I'll always ask them, like, who am I trying to trick? An American audience or the actual audience? And they're like, well, of course, American audience. And I'm like, oh, I can do it then. You know, like the amount of times we think British is amazing or English or a French accent or whatever, like, oh, that was amazing. But then the local is like, that was the worst, you know, you guys will mock it and tear it apart. I'm like, oh, I had no idea.
I remember now. Oh, this goes way back. So it must have been around about the time of the first Fast and Furious film. And there was a MTV Video Music Awards were in Edinburgh.
Yeah, and Ocean Terminal.
And Vin Diesel.
Ocean
Terminal. And Vin Diesel turned up with a leather kilt on. And thinking of he's being all kind of hipster, kind of Scottish, but cool. And it was just like, what the fuck are you doing?
No, bro.
Yeah, that's wrong. You got this all wrong. Just wear a kilt. Don't wear a leather kilt. What the fuck are you trying to do?
God. and you know, I don't know the guy, I've never met him, but you know, he probably was like nailed it. You know, he's probably just thought he probably just swore he nailed it.
This is a great idea. This is a great idea. This is going to work. I can pull this off. No, you can't.
I'm going to get the whole country to like me. This is
no. How to make 3 million Scots instantly hate you is wearing a leather fucking kilt. You know why it's called a kilt, Jeff?
It's not like he picked Paris to get mad at him. He picked the Scots. Like, fuck. Yeah, your language sounds mad and hostile. Like I don't want you guys physically mad at me too.
I know. Yeah. I was just saying. Do you know the reason it's called a kilt, Jeff?
This is going to be a terrible alley dad joke. I can already know where this is coming.
Okay, so the reason I was trying to be all historically accurate. I'm going to say no either way.
Okay, it's because the last person that called it a skirt, they got kilt.
And that's the end of the show, ladies and gentlemen, and probably the end of the podcast in general.
That was so stupid.
I deal with this 3 or 4 times a day.
I've got a million and one dad joke.
Beautiful.
Terrible joke.
There's orange juice, and I found that funny. It's not even a good drink. Holy shit.
Yeah.
Well, we have the chlamydia quiz and the kilt question. So
yeah, there we go.
There was so many things to go back and tell your Hollywood friends.
Oh God, they won't find it funny. That's the problem. Is like there's not a lot of
not genuine humor
like this, you know. It's like, or if I do, or if, like it's weird because it's not that I put on a facade, because that to me implies a malicious fake front, you know. But it is. Sadly, it's still, I mean, that you posted a picture for women of my abs. You're still playing a marketing game.
Yeah.
But there are days where I'm like, the amount of stuff I want to unleash on the earth right now on a post or anything. And even some of my closest friends are like, Jeff, take it down a notch. It's like, oh, come on. I just want to be me.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely like, there'll be some dark humor. And it's definitely a city and an industry where people are like, do we need to call the police with what he just said? Is he safe?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, oh no, that's just normal.
This is the thing about stand-up comedy. Like, it's so bad for comedy because now, and it's like And I think one of our other Scottish stand-up comedians, Frankie Boyle, had said some. Frankie Boyle, he actually got really political, and he became unfunny to me. But early in his career, he was as savagely brutal as a human being could be to anybody else. He was, and he was getting attacked from all ways. And I remember watching him, and he was saying, I have to defend myself because these people are sitting down here and saying, is this stand-up comic? Is he joking? This stand-up comedian at the comedy show, is he joking here? And he's like, yes,
you're at a stand-up comedy club.
Joking, like fucking hell. Why do you, But you have to now explain that you're joking.
I can't imagine. Yeah, like Joe Rogan. I saw one of his stand-up I listened to on Spotify, and he talks about. He goes, look, I know everybody's all worried about people lying, being offended. Because if I'm telling you, if I say it's the truth in my stand-up, it's not the truth. It's funnier. He goes, if the truth is funny, I'll still probably lie. He goes, it's a stand-up comedy show. It's like, those poor guys.
How many times have you heard, name a black comedian, whether it's Kevin Hart or Chris Rock or whoever it is, saying something about white people, and you are crying with laughter.
Yeah,
it's hilarious. I'm not sitting there going, well, as a spokesman for the white community, I'm offended.
Like Dave Chappelle. Like my favorite thing is when Dave Chappelle makes fun of white people.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
Like, that's my favorite thing in the world because 9 times out of 10, I'm like, oh shit, I've done that.
Have you ever seen? Yeah. Have you ever seen? And I sent this to Ali just recently, where on the Chappelle show he plays the blind black white supremacist. Have you ever seen that? It is the funniest fucking thing I've ever seen about.
That's just how it needs to be. It's just. Relax, enjoy it.
So it's like somebody was trying to tell me recently because I'd been watching Blazing Saddles.
Oh God, yeah.
They're kind of upset, saying that's kind of racist. I don't think you understand the film. The whole thing is that the black guy is smarter than the white people. The white people are really dumb, and the black guy is actually the smart one. Like
there's something I post all the time. It's a Ricky Gervais quote. It's like one of my favorite things when I'm pissing people off, and I'm actually really proud of it. Like I actually added a GIF, like it's me just flipping off the camera, and I added a GIF or GIF or whatever you call it of a woman like taking her shirt off, and it exposes my finger, and it has a Ricky Gervais quote saying, "Just you might have found it offensive. I found it funny. That's why I'm happier than you." Yeah. And it's like, if obviously there's real offensive shit out there. Don't get me wrong, but if the receive you're finding it offensive, I'm not going to get all stoic, but you're processing that. Yeah. I could say I don't like red because you happen to be wearing a red hat. If that offends you, I'm not going to stop liking red. It's just, and I feel bad for comedians. Like I thought they were like the last ones because their shtick could be part of who they are. Yeah. Whereas if I have a bad Jeff dark humor combat day.
Oh, froze up.
Whereas comedians, that could be their shtick. I always envied that, but now I don't even like that's. I don't even know if they're safe anymore.
There is some like, oh my god, Andrew Schultz is. Oh my god, that guy's hilarious. He's hilarious. There's still, and it makes him more. I know Ari Shaffir got a lot of shit because he said some really crazy things when Kobe Bryant died. So, and he said something, but again, I think it's a Jordan Peterson thing. Where if you're not willing to, you have to be willing to offend somebody to make something funny or to make a point. Because what he said, and again is, if somebody tells you a joke and it's offensive, okay, or you find it offensive, or you it still came from the position of he thought it was going to be funny.
Yeah.
It's not like he just came out and said,
how am I going to offend him?
All black people are, no, he's not. He's trying to make a joke.
Exactly.
If it's like when the last instance with it was on the TV. When that policewoman, she shot the guy instead of tasering him.
Yeah.
I don't believe she did that because she's racist. I think she did that because she was a fucking awful policewoman.
Yeah. I did a podcast with a cop here, and we were kind of talking. We got a little deep, but we were talking basically about that. Like, there are bad people, but in those situations, does that person also go, okay, what weapon am I going to use? Okay, what color? Okay, if it's that color, okay, never mind, different weapon. You know, it's just like
Yeah.
like the odds are people, like you just said, like when they're making a joke, they're not gonna go, "Ooh, who can I offend today?" They're like, I think this is funny. Oh, that
Yeah.
wasn't my bad, you know.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
But then if you watch like I watched on loop basically Parks and Rec, The Office, the American one. And
which is hilarious.
Yeah. And
Hilarious.
if you rewatch them now, if you watch them under like through cancel culture eyes,
yeah,
it's only a matter of time before some of these go away. If
Yeah.
like
totally.
there's Parks and Rec, there's a running joke, and I'm not agreeing with it, don't get me wrong, but there's a running joke in Parks and Rec where they show the murals on the wall and they talk about their heinous history, and they're always talking about the tribe that was in the city, and there's some pretty intense jokes. And I'm like, wow, I can't imagine those haven't been attacked yet. You know,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
these jokes are like, oh, we're going to delete that season now, you know?
Yeah, Seth Rogen just came out, I think maybe yesterday or the day before, and he said he now looks at Superbad and cringes. And he says he wants it. He says because, and it's like, yeah, I love it. And he says, but he looks at it now, like you were saying, Jeff, through the cancel culture lens and goes, actually, we tried to write it because that's how. And it's still true even now, or certainly as in Scotland, because I've got two teenage sons, they're 17 and 18. I know what 17 and 18-year-olds talk like. And it's exactly the same way that I talked at 24 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
That's how teenagers speak to each other.
Yeah, it's funny as
And
hell.
he said
Yeah,
he wrote
I
it as that,
agree.
but he now worries that Superbad is it homophobic? Is it misogynist? Is it this? Probably yes, probably yes, probably yes. Is it funny? Fuck yes.
Exactly. And that, yeah, it doesn't mean I'm I'm just glad I'm not in charge of that shit, but it does worry me where
But the thing is like the things that I would say, you know, a gay friend of mine, the things that I say to my gay friend are the same. I would make fun of him for being gay, and he laughs because he knows I'm fucking joking.
Yeah.
Love that guy. Love that guy.
That's how it is. That's why I always feel like I'm walking on glass out in this industry or this world, or walking on ice, walking on glass. But like when I was in the military or firefighting, that stuff was fair game most of the time. I can't think of a time it backfired, but the black guy on our team would say this some of the most racist white stuff to me, and I would send it right back to him. I won't even go into the details. In LA, actually, where was I? Santa Monica. The some of this stuff some of my guy friends would say to me made me like nervous, and they laughed their ass off. And I was like, that's funny, don't get me wrong, but if I said that to you or that woman walking by, I guarantee you I'm going to be handcuffed, you know. But I was like, in the right audience, it's funny as hell because you're all on the same page. And it goes back to what you're saying with earlier, where it's like the intention. Odds are I don't have a hate crime intention with this, but like, you know, we live in a bad world, but
of course,
it's
We've also said a few times, and it's actually from a guy I know who's a comedian now, Danny Sloss, and he says every group of guy friends have a WhatsApp group that if it went public, you would all be sacked.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, 1,000,000%.
There was always a running joke before the internet became the internet of like, you know, hey, guy, like in the military, hey guys, if I die, delete my search history or delete that one hard drive. I can't have mom knowing what I was looking at. But yeah, there's absolutely like, I use like iMessenger on my iPhone, but I've had the same Mac desktop, or I've transferred it over, and I have the history of every conversation I've had since I've went Mac on my desktop of conversations and texts. Holy shit. I might actually need to write that in my will just based on my text conversations that I've had. Like I just was texting a buddy I haven't texted forever, and I have the first text we had back almost 10 years ago. And so it's everywhere. That shit, and it's not that I would not want anybody to see it, because I think I'd own up to all of it. But some of us have a very specific friend audience.
Yeah, totally. and you know, when you're saying it, you know the audience that it's going to, and they know where it's coming from. And but if you read that out just now as a script with just no intonation, no tone, and just read Jeff's part, blah 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 blah, and then just let it hang, everybody be like,
well, and then that's where headlines are, and you know, and now the clickbait headlines. I don't agree with all that shit, but it's also kind of genius. They're kind of like the IEDs, I think, are chicken shit warfare, but they're also genius. Like they cost only a couple bucks. They're not going to get hurt. Mm-hmm. They can kill the morale of and I mean, they're genius as far as just like what they do, but clickbait and picking headlines and cutting context out. That's like the IED of mass media. And we fall for it. Like there's not a day go by. I'm like, I'm going to click on that. See, you know, what about Scarlett Johansson? You fucker, you got me. You know?
Yeah. That's 100% true. You know, it's it's a sad world to find ourselves in. Hopefully there's the ship turns at some point, and you know, you could start making fun of things publicly again. And you know,
do you guys genuinely like sit back on like more of your introspective days going, holy shit, is this, because you have kids, are your kids going to go, Dad, tell us about the time when the world started to collapse? Like, is this a phase, or is this actually a genuine fucking thing? Like do you know the funniest thing? This is a genuine true story, talking about this whole cancel culture, being woke and everything. My oldest son is gay, openly gay, and has been since he was 13. He told me at 13, told his mum. We're like, cool, no worries. When he was in 4th year in high school, so it'd have been about 15 maybe, it was that weird time where over in Scotland, there's basically 3 weeks where the school year's finished, but they don't break up for summer holidays, vacation yet. Okay. So
they have to go into class and just sit in class. So the teachers make up shit for them to do. So what they decided they were going to do one day was get all these 15-year-old kids into the assembly hall, so like the main school hall, theatre kind of area, and sit them all down and have these people come in and talk to them about things that the youth want to hear about.
Okay.
So they had these guys who were in like their late 20s, early 30s coming in and talking about, hey, we're going to talk to you about stay safe on the internet. And all the kids are like, it's fine, we've got these smartphones, we're not talking about. And then they brought this guy out who was a gay activist. So they brought the gay activist in to talk to the school.
Okay.
And this guy was up on stage talking, and he said, but what you have to remember is you have to respect all gay people. And Aaron put his hand up, and he went, oh, and Aaron says, I disagree with that, because what happens if the gay person's also an asshole?
Yes. Your son's
and
my
the
hero.
activist said, well, no, you have to respect them. And Aaron said, well, I could respect their struggle. I could respect the fact that maybe had challenges. I can respect the fact that they maybe had to fight with what they've gone through, but I don't have to respect them as a person. And the gay activist was going, no, you do, because otherwise that's homophobic. You're clearly a homophobe and need to listen. At which point, Aaron's best friend stood up and went, Aaron's been gay since he was 13. Every cunt in here fucking kens that, you prick. And literally the entire auditorium just started clapping, and this guy just literally just exits stage left, like walked off.
Oh, man.
And that's the problem is, I think, I'm not perfect, but I think, ironically, some of the most heinous, potentially racist or whatever exclusive things can actually be said purely. Like I've that's funny you said that. I had the exact same, my sister's gay too, very open about it too. And we had almost a similar conversation where she has almost a British dry sense of humor, where you're not sure if she just made fun of you, because it's almost dry British intellectual humor.
Yeah.
And I said something, it was the exact same thing. I'm like, oh man, that lady was a bitch. She goes, oh, is it because she was gay? I'm like, no. Gay, she's just a bitch. Like, I was just straight up, I was like, had nothing to do with that. I didn't even know. I was like, I was looking at pure, like I was the most objective person in the world to have said that. And yeah, like some of the most heinous thing. Just
I used to work. I talked about
your son needs. Give him a handshake for me. Like that is. That gave me the chills. That is so awesome.
I just talking similar to your story. I used to work with a girl who was a Muslim. I won't name her just in case, but she used to work with me for our work, and she used to help support new starts. And she was very direct in how she delivered our feedback. Uh-huh. And she was given someone, and this young guy who was like 19 years old, and the girl was a few years older than him. He went, oh, you're kind of scary. And she went, is it because I'm brown? And he went, no, it's not. And just didn't know what to say. And I just walked away, because I thought, I'm going to crack here. She just literally dry, stone face dropped to like, is it because I'm brown? And he was like, no, that's like panic stations, eh?
That's how like terrified we are, you know?
Yeah.
I did it to somebody in a sandwich shop. So it was just me. I was in there getting a sandwich, not whatever it was at work, and there was two women in the shop, and like an older woman and a younger girl, and I think I'd asked it was a Friday or something, and I was getting I don't know if you get them in America, but a crispy cake, which is just like Rice Krispies with chocolate on it.
Yeah.
And I said, a crispy cake, and she went, white or brown? And I went, oh, that's offensive. And she went, oh my God, I'm really sorry. And I'm just going, I'm fucking joking. Like, I'm joking. Like, yeah, I want the white chocolate. Like, what? But she got so like when you see like somebody's arse collapsing in front of you.
They think their job's going away, and we don't have that. Like, this isn't a bit, but like we don't have that. I don't think I can ever walk around going, oh, it's because I'm white, right? Like, we don't have those arguments. Like, unless we're talking about like khaki pants or something. Like, if somebody hands me, if Dave Chappelle like gives me some khakis and a polo, I'm like, oh, it's because I'm white. He'll be like, yeah. I'm like, well, you're right. Give me the khakis and the polo. I do wear them.
yeah, it's funny. Yeah, but yeah, it's just This is the battle that we live with, man. But yeah, as long as people could call out this shit and go, no, I'm not calling you a dickhead because you're gay or a Muslim or black or fucking. Yeah. I'm calling you a dickhead because you're a dickhead.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care.
Your son is wise beyond his years.
You know what I mean? I don't. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's what a place to wrap that up. What a place to wrap that up.
We have no answers for racism and prejudice, but we know how it works for us when it's pure.
You know what I mean? Yeah. I don't think about any of that stuff. When you know that you're not homophobic or racist and you just don't care about any of it. I don't shut the fuck up. This guy, do you know what I mean? This guy,
I see red minus gender and skin color.
You know what I mean?
I don't need those ancillary things.
I deal with the general public all the time, and some of the people that I hate the most are white. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. That's what I miss about like there was a in that, this is like the poor old vet story, but like in that camaraderie, there was a purity to the jokes, to the like, and we're going back to what you said earlier, like this, I feel horrible, I can't remember his name, but for whatever reason, without getting into it, there's not a lot of black dude green berets. I can only think of a handful I ever met. I don't know why, there might not even be a reason, but he and I would give each other shit all the time, and not once would there be, if there was a firefight, would I go, okay, I got my black teammate over here, my white teammate over here. Like it was the most sterile existence, and I'm, and it's us old guys or whatever going back in my day, and it's just like, I don't know how, and God bless you for having kids. Like, I don't know how to do it. Like I'm at a loss.
Yeah, it worries me more. I've got 3 kids, Jeff. So I've got my 2 teenage boys. So Aaron, he's now 18, so he's kind of out my hair. Not that I've got hair, but he's out my hair now. I've got my next one. But Logan's a year younger. And he's just literally finishing high school in the next couple of months. But I have an 11-year-old daughter who's about to start high school after the summer. And I've said this to Chris, and I've said this before. It's weird because, like, I'm 43 next month. So I didn't have a cell phone. I didn't have a mobile phone till I was like maybe 19, 20 years old. Yeah. Because they just went an option.
I said the same. I just turned 43, and I said, I call it, it's like Jesus, like BC and AD. It's like pre-mobile phones and after mobile phones. 100%. Like one of my ex-girlfriends, her kid is raised on an iPad. Yeah. And that's their norm.
Yeah, I saw a video. This was a couple of years back. You know those like for like literally like 18-month-old to 2-year-old babies, and they've got those books that are like basically cardboard that's like yay thick, so they can chew on them and stuff. And literally a video, and they handed the kid the book, and the kid literally opened the book up and was going like that because they were trying to zoom into the picture.
Oh, shit.
And literally like 20 months old. But again, what I was about to say is my daughter's had a phone, and she was one of the last ones in her class, but she's had an iPhone since she was 9, which fucking is. When I was 9, I was happy with a GI Joe and half a machine gun.
Yeah,
That's all you wanted. Do you know what I mean?
I was digging holes.
Yeah, 100%.
I was playing in a cardboard box.
Yeah.
Like in the backyard.
But she's grown up with mobile phones, and even when she goes out, we've got a trampoline in the back garden, and she literally stands. She's a little bit crazy. She stands and bounces on her trampoline, listening to YouTube, and then she'll go out with her friends, and then she'll come back, and I'll go, "What are we doing with your pal?" We went to the park, and we sat in the swings and watched YouTube together. And I'm like, "Fuck, that's sad," but that's what they all do. So it kind of isn't. But as you say, from where we were 15 years ago, 20 years ago, when we were, teens, early 20s, to where it is now, when Anya is 21 in 10 years' time, where's the world going to have gone to? That's what worries me. If we've gone from Superbad, which is only 10, 11 years ago, that's an American Pie, the American Pie series, which I fucking love.
Yeah,
that's all like
faster. It doesn't feel proportionate. It's I think this is a little nerd. I think it's in computer science. There's some phenomenon talking about how like a microchip, it doubles in processor speed, halves in size every 9 months or something like that.
Yeah,
like that's where we are exponentially. It's not. There's no ratio, and it's what's left? Now. I mean, AI and all that, and that. Yeah, I want there to be some giant, an EMP, and I'm going to go find a cabin and a shotgun and just ride it out. And as badass as I think I am, I'll probably be the first one crying in the fetal position in the corner, scared of the zombies, giving people my ammo and looking at my new spectrum of suck, basically.
Yeah. It's
maybe literally.
I think
exactly. Like, what will you do for those nachos?
Almost anything.
Guys got to eat.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Don't judge apocalypse stuff. Don't judge apocalypse stuff.
Definitely not. But then, as you were saying at the start, that AI is now putting filters onto photos where it's moved past the as you were saying, the bunny ears, the fake whiskers to is that her face or not? And I think what impact's that having on her psyche as an 11-year-old kid?
There's a thing in child development where it talks about, and I'm not getting on masks, but I know there's a thing in child development. Forgive me, I'm not even a parent, but this is from my medical training where like at a certain age, the kid should be able to grasp and grip, and like at a certain age, they should be able to sit up straight. And then there's a certain age where they have to have facial recognition. And that, I mean, again, it's not a anti-mask statement, but any kids born now that have been grown up in a mask world, they don't understand facial cues. And I use the word not derogatorily, but by its definition, it is retarding the development of those functions and delaying them in the definition of the sense. And it's this is just old man on the mountain bitching and moaning, but I'm at a loss. Like I just sit back and just yell like, you kids these days.
Yeah. I'm mad as hell not going to take it anymore.
Yeah, well, here's my funny. I know we're wrapping it up, but I'm getting ready to move. It's a long personal story, but I'm moving in with she's kind of like my sister, and I'm kind of like a godfather to her daughters. And I've been alone for years, living alone, and she has a house, and I'm like, cool. I saving money in LA, thumbs up. But I've gone from me and a dog my way, where everything's at 90-degree angles and clean, to a house full of girls, child girls. And I will probably message you in a couple months and go, how do you do this? How do you do this? So it's a sitcom waiting to happen.
100%. 100%.
Yeah, that's a strange thing because I live alone. And when, if you're speaking to a girl or something and she, they have these, very specific ways that they do things. And I'm like, no, I just, what night do you do housework? And it's like, yeah, sometimes I just don't. Because but why not? Because I don't want to, and nobody's telling me to do it.
It's just about I'm very OCD, and so I'm doomed basically.
Yeah. On the flip of that, though, when you live with girls and women, you realise that they have this whole maths in their head where they have to work out if they're going to an event how far in advance they have to wash their hair. I didn't fucking knew that existed. Like genuinely,
my first thought when you said that was, oh no, there go my hour-long morning poos. Like how
No, genuinely.
my whole life just got shot down.
Yeah, if you arrange to go out on a specific date, they will backwards calculate that shit in a second to work out when they need to wash their hair. Because they don't, that just is weird. And they do moan when you go for your hour-long poo, but I'm willing to do it because
I'm now going to have to backwards plan.
To use the Scottish word, we go for a jobby. Just to throw the Scottish word into the mix.
Good to know. The British guy, he said that. I knew him for 2 years, and he said, I'm going to go take a swamp. And apparently that means pee, not poop. I thought it'd be poo. I can't remember, but it was like, I just got to go for a swamp.
That like East End rhyming slang, that Cockney rhyming slang.
He's very, he's up there. Yeah, that's why I said very Guy Ritchie snatch kind of level of, you know, he'll look at me and he'll see me replaying what I thought he said in my head, processing it, and then responding. Oh, it's like there's a delay in the Zoom call when I'm talking to him sometimes, because he'll get in that Cockney speed thing, and I get lost.
There's things where there's so many classic kind of comedy bits where like it's a Scottish person. Now this is something that happened to me, and it's our former guest Laura Zera is now a friend now, and she was voice messaging me shit-faced drunk. She's like, try it. I have to say this very slowly. Try and say burglar alarm. So I told her, Scottish people can't say it. So if I try and say it fastly, say, I have to go. My burglar alarm's gone off. And she was saying, say it to your phone, because like her friends wanted to hear me saying it, and it's just like the most infuriating thing. I had problems with Netflix. Okay, I couldn't get to my Netflix. And I was on the phone. To an American, and because you're Scottish, so you get angry really quickly. And it's just, sir, I don't understand what you're saying. Well, I can't get to my fucking Netflix. Fucking, I don't know. It's infuriating. It's the most. Oh my god.
Yeah, I always say I have the worst accent ears, and no matter what the accent is, I can't. For some reason, I shut down. And so, if it's not being racist, but a lot of times it's somebody from India taking the phone call on like tech support calls and all of that, or if it's a thick, like in LA, like a thick Spanish accent, I genuinely feel like my ears are like subconsciously racist, because I'm like. I don't know what you're saying, and I know it's me, not you. Please help me here.
It happens constantly.
You need to rename this podcast 3 White Guys That Aren't Racist But Talk About
Racist.
We just get cancelled instantly.
I know. It'll be worth it. It would be worth it.
But I don't have.
We're kind of heading on to time, aren't we? I know you needed to get.
Yeah, I'm just. To say I don't know how long we've been going on. I have no reference of time.
Exactly. It's in when my legs go numb. I know it's been an hour.
Yeah, we're actually heading on. We're rapidly approaching the 2 hours, so we'll start heading up. Just because you are now, as you said at some point, Jeff, you are an influencer and a content creator, and very proudly. So if we could send people to your Instagram or your social media, where can we send them, and we'll tag them up and send some people your way, sir?
Everything I grabbed is the Jeff Bosley, not because I'm being pretentious, but because I was like, you try to mimic the success of others, don't reinvent the wheel. And I was like, well, Hugh Jackman was Wolverine and he does cool movies and he's the Hugh Jackman. So I'm going to be the Jeff Bosley. And now I feel like a pretentious a-hole because it makes me feel like the God and the God, so but anything and everything is the Jeff Bosley. I've got that, somehow sold my soul to get the blue check mark. But yeah, I try to be active. And I'm lucky. I'm glad I ran across you guys that way. I try to interact, and I always like promise, like at the end of the day, what I want to do require my customers at the end of the day are the people that go watch these movies or do the whatever, somehow watch the shit I do. Definitely. So I genuinely try to think about that. Like if it weren't for that, I mean, if somebody wants, if you're so narcissistic, you want to make a movie alone and watch your own movie, you got issues, and I don't want to do that. So I try to interact and do what I can for everybody and try not to influence too much. And I can't make content for shit. So you'll see that on my YouTube.
Well, man, thank you very much for your time. It was.
I'm so glad you guys reached out. Thank you. This is. Yeah, man, I'm hurting.
Welcome anytime, man. Welcome anytime.
Of course. Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, let's call it a wrap. So episode 67 with former Green Beret, former firefighter, LA type, the Jeff Bosley. Episode 67 done and dusted. Thank you very much, sir.
The Silly Goose Gang Podcast.